Land of many waters with 6 races living together.
Globespan is a Guyanese dialogue moving towards the realization of one nation in one Guyana. It's a platform that offers an all-inclusive discussion, with the pros, the cons, the ones that is taken aside, and the ones that stand in the middle. Globespan believes agreeing and disagreeing are part of the nation's building. Globespan believes that every Guyanese voice is part of the nation's building. As we span the globe for voices from the diasporas and those living home, we stand on our commitment that we are all Guyanese working towards one nation in one Guyana.
Coffee and Dr. Jagan, Bobby, she gave us our great sons. Rohan Kanhai, Coffee and Dr. Jagan.
As the world turns on its axis bringing changes, we as Guyanese must adopt to those changes for a better Guyana for all. Globespan stands on its axis with its belief that one nation, one Guyana, one destiny must include voices from all corners of Guyana.
Land of many waters with 6 races living together.
4/7. Tonight we welcome all our listeners live from New York. We must say thanks first to Mr. Noir Singh for making this program available, and to Ryan Gobin and Devin Bissoon, our 2 technical directors. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome the Mayor of Georgetown, his Worship Mayor Alfred Mentor. Mayor Mentor, welcome to the program.
Thank you again for having me, Mr. Rose, and your team.
Okay. Now, Mayor Mentor, my first question to you is this. The country is very hot. How is the city coping with the heat wave?
What the challenge that we're having nationally, not only in Georgetown, is
all across the country.
All right, is the heat that is obviously affecting us. The opportunity for a lot of businesses obviously would benefit from this. Some people suffer losses. Some people would benefit, like the air-conditioned persons. So what you would have noticed only recently, where the government themselves, because of the probably not thinking ahead or projecting, the number of businesses that would have came to Georgetown, came to Guyana, and they didn't really address the issue of the national grid to increase the supply. And that in itself has taken put in a dampener, where we would have gotten some significant blackouts and load shedding due to the not being able to put those kind of systems in place to address the increase in consumption of fuel and fossil fuel, so to speak, to allow for the businesses who are on the grid, as well as the regular residential and other commercial persons on that grid. So they had a challenge where they had to ask certain business or major commercial businesses that happen to be on that grid to be removed from that grid and to use other generator products to be able to supply electricity or energy towards those businesses. So I think they had to put some measures in place to address that.
But efforts to expand the grid or to improve power consumption in Guyana can be blamed only on this government, the previous government also.
Well, I do agree with you. Both successive governments seem to be planning and putting measures in place to address these things, but implementation has been a significant bugbear on both governments to be able to put these systems in place to project for these issues. So yes, some blame must be placed on both governments, successive governments, to treat with this issue and to allow for this to happen. I know there have always been talks about hydroelectricity and all kind of other energy, either the one with the, I think the vice president normally addresses those issues. I can't remember the name of the thing where they were getting electricity from some of these waterfalls. But that in itself, when I looked at that particular project, I thought that that project in itself has its own little flaws. Touching on, if you're going to really look at even the Kaicho Falls right now, you see the water level on the Kaicho Falls. So even if you had to treat with the escarpment of where they want to put that particular falls, you would have had to be able to create wells at the top of those falls, and to really and truly treat with that, and also the other escape of water coming off of those falls, because there's not only one fall there. There's the I can't remember the name of the particular fall at the moment, but that particular hydro fall has Amelia Falls. That is
Amelia.
Right. Amelia Falls comes from the Korabrang River into the Amelia Falls. But then there's three other falls. There's Marino Falls and some other small falls right nearby that the water escapes from those from the river that leads to those. Not only the Amelia Fall, they also escape off the Marino and another one. I can't remember the name right offhand, but they have a particular. So you have to block those falls, and you also have to build a major well on top of that escarpment to be able to hold water for cases like this, where we have this kind of hot weather that is affecting not only the city but also those areas within those regions. So when you're thinking about building those kind of things, you have to take into consideration those kind of developmental plans, so that you don't really go ahead and spend the kind of money or allocate those kind of monies for spending, and then you end up with these other variations that will truly affect the falls itself, and the ability of the implementation of the falls and the electricity generated from that will benefit not only the region 4 but many other regions within that particular area.
Okay. Now, Mr. Mayor, you've been a city councilor for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you serve under Mayor Patricia Green.
Yes, I did.
Mayor Hubert Ryan. Any other mayors you serve under, or just the two of them?
No, yeah, just the two of them, Patricia Chase Green and Mayor Ryan.
Okay. Now, how was their leadership, and what you have learned from them as mayor now that you're the mayor?
Everybody has pluses and minuses. In relation to the Patricia Chase Green, there were a number of things that she would have done well at the time when she was at the helm. The APNU AFC was in government, so you had access to certain funding. You had cooperation between central government and the local democratic organs and the municipalities. So they were more favorable to us at the time. So she benefited from the resources that were available by the central government then, who recognized the need, recognized that there were certain challenges, recognized that the ought to deal with and treat with issues within the city, and not only the city, many other the towns. So generally, she had the benefit of us having a cooperative government who not give away resources, but allocated resources to clean the various canals, drains, and other major infrastructure works in markets, and other constituency projects in building bridges and all those other things within the various areas. So we were able to benefit, or her tenure was able to benefit from those kind of resources, even where the Minister of Communities then, or we call him Minister of Local Government then, in Mr. Rana Bulkan, we had lots of engagement, lots of workshops, lots of collaboration. The relationship was really and truly solid, and councillors were able to lay out what challenges they have in the community, and those things were addressed by the government, who allocated significant funds for us to be able to treat with those. In my time under Yuvraj, we had a partial under from 2019, a partial service of that government, as well as we end up with the PPP government, who had their own agenda, where they went about treating with matters on their own unilaterally, without consultation with the council, and dealing with matters from a top-down rather than a bottom-down approach, and that has significantly affected our overall relationship, where the mayor from time to time had to protest or seek other measures. But we were able to work through those periods, because while there were challenges, I think challenges, while being complex as they may be, myself and him and others were able to work as a team. I was particularly assigned to raising the increase in rates and got people to pay. We found innovative ways in which we could settle those rates debts. We worked with government and others, and other private sector and other government agencies to be able to sort those situations out, and we find plenty of workable solutions to increase our rate collection from maybe a 50% to maybe 55, going on to 60, or let's say between 45 to 60. So we addressed those issues and allowed for us to be able to have kind of resources necessary to treat with the various things in the council at that period. Because what you would realize in previous council, either maybe under Hamilton Green tenure, even to some extent under Chase Green's tenure, you had used to have significant protests by even staff members, many times even corporate people that we have contractual arrangement with, even garbage contractors. So, but we didn't have that kind of challenge under this the last leadership, because myself, being in a person in finance, was able to identify a number of areas that we could raise the kind of funds and find innovative ways to treat with those issues, and allow for us to not have that kind of conflict in that previous administration.
So what you're saying to us is that if there's an PNC mayor, that mayor gets along well with the PNC government and vice versa. But that shouldn't be, though, because people should not put party politics ahead of the people's business. Anyway, it happens. So, now, as the new mayor, what style of government would you have? Is it a type of government from top down, bottom up, collaborative, compromises, or unilateralism?
Well, I did hear all the various ones that you spoke about, but I am really a bottom.
Well, let me repeat them.
Yes.
Top down, bottom up, collaborative, compromising, or unilateralism?
I would say a combination of two, a bottom up and collaborative. So okay. And to some extent, a bipartisan one as well. Because ideally, like I said, and I think I said this many times, that we as councillors were elected to serve the people. And I think you were trying to indicate that just now, where it shouldn't be a case of which party you come from. Right. At the end of the day, whenever that you're elected or you've been drawn from the system to serve, you're neither APNUN or PPP or whoever else happens to be your councillors. Yes, in my case, I was elected by the APNUN to serve, and those persons show their faith in granting me the office to serve as mayor, and they give me the support and the confidence to be able to so do. But whenever I'm then in that office, my job is to serve all the people of the city of Georgetown, like the president would have to do whenever the president might have one election in Guyana and to serve by a small margin of a point something percent, but it's still he gains the majority. But whenever he's elected, like myself and other mayors and other councillors and other deputy mayors, your job then when you become the mayor and the and deputy mayor is to serve all the people of the city. In this case, my job is to serve all the people of the city of Georgetown when I become elected as mayor. But with the support that I've gotten from my party, yes, but the overall job is to serve everyone and to serve them without fear or favor or affection or ill will. And that is what I've been doing for some time now.
There's a myth that someone can run for mayor and so forth, but nobody actually can run for mayor. Can you please explain to our listeners how a mayor is elected?
Okay, what you usually do, because of the system we have there's a list system and there's a proportional representation system. Based on the electoral process that you have to go through. So when you run, there's 15, there's 30 seats, so to speak, first of all.
Right. Of
those 30 seats, there are 15 seats that are selected by the constituency, and there are 15 seats selected by the PR, which is the proportional representation. In the election of the constituency seat, you have with the 15, whoever wins, who gets the most votes at the constituency goes on to become that constituency councillor. And then you also have the PR, which is the total votes add up, divided by the how much is per seat. You will then be allocated the particular seat. In our case, we would have won, I think it's 19 seats in all. 19, I think it's 12 yes, 12 seats by constituency and 7 seats by PR. The PVP would have gotten those difference of those 11 seats. I can't tell you the difference, because if we do the mathematics, you'll be able to figure it out. But they've gotten 11 of those seats and we've gotten 19. So that's the whole crux of the matter of the constituency and the PR system.
Let me ask you straight out. How many employees are at City Hall?
Almost 900.
That's all?
Yeah, almost 900 employees. And you're right, I'm glad you asked that question. It obviously is supposed to be a bit more, but the cumbersome and complex way in which you have to go about employing staff has been a significant bugbear. But while we also look to increase our staff, we also have to consider our ability to pay them and to look at within our budgetary allocations to know that we have to treat with those. But based on the various departments, there are a number of persons that, or the number of particular, a number of particular in the line items that we have to address. And they are missing staff in enough different departments. And we've been trying to fill them, but to fill them itself has been a particular challenge where we can't just sit down and determine and have through our human resource treat with those. We have to then signal to the local government commission that we would like to do this and to address these issues. And that in itself is a very bureaucratic process of us having to look at it, send to them, they send back to us, and then we have to advertise and a whole long janjat as it relates to treating with those issues. So we've been working to try and have a better working relationship with the local government commission. I think they've given us a little bit more latitude now to not only deal with the higher up staff, but at least with the lower level, maybe up to a clerk 3 or others, that we could treat with quickly so that we could get things addressed. But at the end of the day, whatever we do, we have to still do in consultation with them. And that process itself takes some time and affect our ability to sometimes serve the people in the way in which we would like to.
Can you hire someone as a mayor? Can you hire any employee, or you have to go through the?
No, yeah, I can't. What I would first have to do is check around within the system to see if there's somebody that is capable enough or has the qualification necessary for me to be able to use, if that's the case. But let's say I want to hire somebody to work with me as a mayor, or if you were asking the question if I could just pick up and hire somebody, no. It is a system. The system has to first operate through the administration, who then brings that matter to the Human Resource Committee, because how council work, or how this council and all councils that work through the length and breadth of Guyana, is that it works through committees. It was designed like that through the Municipal and District Councils Act 2801, where it speaks of what the committees are required to do, and council, so committees recommend and council approve. But even though the council approve as it relates to staff, like I suggest, we still have to send out that recommendation of that approval to the local government commission, who has to ratify that.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. So the local government commission is the one responsible for employment.
I would say technically, yes.
Okay. Now, since you became the mayor, okay, by the way, how long a mayor serves? 2 terms?
No, it's a two-way question. The term of the mayor is a yearly basis, where you have to have elections every year.
Right.
It runs for 3 years. The term of the local government period is for 3 years, but every year you have an annual election of the mayor and deputy mayor, and maybe some other committees if you wish to have any changes. So basically, that is the position of mayor.
After the 3 years, a mayor can't seek re-election.
Well, yes. To answer that aspect of the question, let's say in the last term, the reason why the previous mayor wasn't able to run, he's not even going to run as a councillor and maybe come back as a councillor, maybe the deputy mayor. But I think you only could run for a mayor for 5 consecutive terms.
Oh,
so
5
terms. Yes,
so in this actually 5 years.
5 years. In this particular case, we didn't have elections in the statutory time of the 3 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when that election wasn't run, or didn't happen, he continued to run, for 4th year and continue into 5th year, based on the system. So he ran. So every year he had to also get that clearance, and so that clearance was also put in place by the Minister of Local Government. So he ended up running for 4.5 into 5 years. So that disqualified him to run for mayor of the city of Georgetown.
Now, you became the mayor, but it's obvious that the last mayor, I'm sure he had some unfinished business that he tried to address and could not get it done because his term came to an end. Have you encountered some of those businesses, and have you addressed them, or you just discard them? And
no, like I said, I was the deputy mayor, understanding all that is there, all that we could have done and couldn't have done, and what we might have had in place in a halfway stage, in a 1/3 fashion. So there was a lot of projects, as well as a lot of plans that I'm still aware of, and those plans weren't the mayor's plans; those plans were the council's plans. So we would have had many discussions, many disclosure. We fleshed out a number of issues. So a lot of those plans that happens to be there are plans that I will obviously continue and try to treat with, and also add additional plans that I would have seen fit, and also work with the various council members to be able to win the support to be able to treat with those issues. So the stuff that happened prior, a council is always in perpetual succession. So and I will have to address those issues and see how we could find the resources necessary to treat with them.
Okay. Now, as you know, when one becomes a president, one becomes a mayor, one becomes a leader, they tend to put their brand on the institution they lead based on their policies. Since your ascendancy to the office of mayor, what are some of the policies you put forth that it can say this is mentor brand of policies or mentor type of governance?
What I've done, remember, is I've been there for a couple of months now. So
Right.
what I've been doing is really and truly assessing the councils that are with me, both from the APNU side as well as the PPP side, or the government side in this particular case, assessing their ability, assessing their qualities, assessing how they can properly serve, and how you could get the best views to come forward. And I've done that assessment. I've also realized that there's a lot of things that you could end up doing where you could have these consensus approach, but that all that is good. There's still the need for you to put your stamp on things and allow for things to happen. Again, while I'm involved in this particular political dispensation, or understanding where this has acted from a political point of view, I've been involved in business for over 25 years before I got involved in city council kind of stuff. So I draw on my business skills to be able to address a number of issues. So even though if I keep on having a meeting of the meeting of the next meeting of the next meeting of the meeting to discuss the minutes of the meeting, you will get nothing done. So I bring a different management style, which I would have brought from my business days, and which I speak of management by objective. So I list all the objectives, list where I would like to go, and assess the strategy as to what I'd like to treat with those issues. So even though the objective is wholesome, the strategy becomes something that I bring my stamp of approval on, to be able to get those things done as a businessman, as a business person or a business personality to the game, because you will never get anything done if you just meet of the meeting of the meeting of the next meeting of the next meeting, and you'll just you'll mark time. So I've found different ways in which I will treat with those issues, and to allow for us to be able to push through on a lot of those process, a lot of the developmental plans I have, and how I'll be able to bring the kind of results necessary to the council.
Great. Folks, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. You can go there and listen to us live. Thank you. Now, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Have the city received a subvention from the government as yet?
From what I know for a fact, the subvention is a small piece, so to speak. Some $30 million that they usually get. They've identified the subvention of how much they want to give, but I think they've decided that they want to allocate it to a particular project that we have at the council. Yes, the council in the previous administration would have identified what they had in mind, but I think when the minister at the time chose to award the money to us, he wanted to award it in a particular direction. So those monies supposed to be with us in order for us to treat with an administrative building that we're doing some work with. So yes, those monies are with us to be able to treat with the particular matter that has to be addressed. I think we're working with the contractor to be able to deal with those issues, but yes, the money is with us. But $30 million is a dot in the ocean. I do agree that they might have been looking at the city a little different in relation to even the City Hall building that is being rebuilt. Those monies were allocated by central government, but it came about being allocated by central government where we would have applied to the previous government and asked them for that. But we led the project to allow for the quantifying of the information and getting the quantities together for us to be able to understand what it will cost to get that. I think it was somewhere near $1 billion, is what it's or thereabout that it ended up costing. But to get to that project cost, I think the European Union would have volunteered some expenses to clear that project proposal to treat with that particular issue. But the government has taken on the responsibility of dealing with that. And I think one of the things when we would have met with the president, either in 2021 or 2022 or thereabout, he would have said that, yes, we're giving this money over to this. And I think one of the things they wanted to talk about was how we could be able to do some negotiation in relation to some interests that they have on monies that they have outstanding for us in relation to payments that they're supposed to pay for government buildings and so on. So we never got around to treat with that because I think I reached out many times to the finance minister. I think we've also reached out even in this in my new position as mayor. So it's a matter of time as to when we will eventually schedule that particular meeting so we can have that discussion and maybe that quid pro quo arrangement in fitting with outstanding indebtedness they have to the council and how we could be able to work the particular interests and either give a waiver. I know there's a particular issue in the papers currently right now in the media in relation to amnesty and waiver, and that's something if at some point I'll probably speak to that at some point in this particular discussion that we're having.
You have said that the city gives about $30 million, which is a drop in the ocean, not even the bucket. You presented a budget this year. What was your budget allocation amount?
It was $2.4 billion, to be precise. We had a little shortfall in the exact amount, but it was around that sum. It was a budget that we didn't have the and it was a budget in the negative, so to speak, where we didn't have all the monies or the resources to be able to treat with the various plans and projects we had in mind. Obviously, it is one of those budgets that was also affected by the election period, the other period, so that's one of the reasons why it was a bit late. So it's just one of those that we had to deal with and to get it approved. But I guess for the 2024 plans through the Finance Committee, we'll be not only looking at a budget beyond that sum, but we are looking at allocating funds that we could address particular matters either through some renovation of our markets and a number of other things where I've been walking around in my various walkabouts, not only into the markets and various areas, the various buildings and so on that we have. There's need for a lot of resources to be placed in those, in the bringing the staff up to speed and having them work in a better area. I think they need to be treated a little more fairly, even the market people. That we have those various markets, Starbuck Market, Border Market. In those visits, I've had some significant complaints, and I really want to address those complaints. We've listed many of the things we'll treat with in the short term, but in the long term, as it relates to our budgetary plans for the market and so on, we will deal with those issues. But while I say that, we also need to see what central government may wish to treat with, and we also will be considering some other public-private partnerships with corporate Guyana to be able to address a number of these issues.
So you intend to raise that money, your budget money, from taxes?
Yes.
Are the people paying their taxes on time? Are businesses paying their taxes?
No, it has always been a tremendous challenge as it relates to taxes. I've said earlier that we've worked in different ways to increase our rate in collection. And we've been trying other innovative ways to get those people up to speed, to get them paying their taxes and to treat with it. Rates and taxes has been one of those things that lots of people pay only when they have a situation. Lots of people turn up and pay their normal thing and, at the end of the year, running into anytime now, running into next year. We have our biggest collection period, let's say between December 1st all the way to maybe March, April, so to speak. So we have a good 5 months. But many other persons, it's not like GPL if you don't cut off, if you don't pay and cut off your lights, or if it's like water and cut off your water. So it's while it's a necessity and it's a civil obligation of persons, many of those persons honor those based on, I gotta go and get a mortgage, I gotta deal with a particular transaction where transferring or selling the property or something of the sort. They forget that we need these money to pay our staff. We need these monies to pay our contractors. We need these monies to pay other services, other renovations and repairs. We need this money to pay our taxes to the GRA or to the NIS. We have other persons who have retired that we also have to honor because of their situation where we have those persons dependent on us, because we are one of those organizations who we have those long-term persons who retire that we have to honor their gratuity and pension. So there's a number of persons who does not see they know they have to pay, but they hold back on that kind of payment. And there are other persons who also have significant challenges who haven't been paying, and we've been trying to work with those persons with their interests and the interest that would have accrued. So there's a number of persons we've been treating with that, but we've been having, like I said, some challenges recently where the Minister of Local Government has intervened in touching on or trying to halt a particular process where the council has the mandate to regulate its business to the people that elected them. And I keep saying this over and over. The council, whenever it makes a decision, it's sacrosanct. It equates to that of a cabinet making a decision. It equates the president as an executive president making a decision, because the council becomes that executive. And that executive, when they sit and they ratify and they make a decision, it becomes one that is operationalized. So when I noticed that the minister tried to intervene or inject himself without having the requisite power, because there's no power in the 2801 that speaks to that. And I thought it was very awkward and disrespectful to the council for them to do that. So I spoke on the particular matter. I addressed the particular matter with the intent of having to seek legal recourse if there's not a retraction or them making a decision to treat with it. But I'm still open to some kind of compromise or some kind of discussion, either through the various channels to bring this an end, because the business of the council has to proceed. And the only reason we made that decision and to put that measures in place is that we had some significant outstanding PAYE for the GRA department, and we met with the Commissioner General on this particular issue, and he has agreed that we will make some payments at whatever point, but we would have decided that in order for us to treat with that, we have to meet or try to reach a lot of those persons that are not paying, but they're not paying because they have significant interest outstanding. So if they pay, the money go to the interest, like even in the banking system, if you pay, the money go to the interest first before it goes to the principal or the demand. Right. So right. we were trying to bring some relief to a lot of those persons so that they could honor their obligations, so that we could make good on the arrangement we have with the GRA. And I think the minister would have intervened and talking about some regulation or some story, which he's standing on shaky ground. So if we're not able to resolve this matter pretty soon so that we can address the business of the council, we'll have to seek legal recourse to such a matter.
Okay, now, as you know, Georgetown starts from the arch, is at Liliendal, all the way to Agricola, am I right?
Yes, from Commons Lodge to Agricola.
Right. Now, how do there's a flat tax rate across the city? Because some neighborhoods are very, very poor, others are extremely wealthy and so forth. But is there a flat tax rate for everyone in the city?
No, there are different rates for different things. There's a residential rate, there's a commercial rate, and
No, but
there's
I'm talking
also
about residential. Is a flat tax rate for
there's a
residential?
flat tax rate of 4% based on the valuation of the rating valuation provided by the valuation division. So the valuation division has a responsibility. How we rate or determine the cost is based on a rating valuation provided by the valuation division. So there's a special rating under section, I think it's 2801 is 2804. They fall under 2804. So their responsibility is to provide rating for rating purposes or valuation for rating purposes. So when they provide that valuation to us, it's then multiplied by 4%, which is residential. And there's another rate, I think 250% for 275% for commercial, and the other, and there's an institutional rate, which I believe is 25% for like social organizations that not schools, social organization, maybe like political parties or other persons that like I think daycares and all those other little things. And then there's also a rate that we're looking at, which we want to, because of Guyana's and Georgetown's move, the amount of volume of business that they're dealing with a lot of industrial matters and industrial waste and industrial development. We're now looking at a rate that we'll be able to treat with industrial matters, but we're working that out with the evaluation division. And so we intend to have a meeting with them pretty shortly. We have already spoken. It's just a time and a day need to be set for us to meet with the evaluation division so we can iron out these different things and allow for the process to put in place to have an industrial rate for those many businesses that are operating along Houston and maybe under the Water Street and the various shore base and all these different things within the city of Georgetown.
Now, you said 44% tax for residential.
Yeah.
44% tax on what? The property value?
Yeah. No, not on the total. if not being only property. It's a rating valuation that gives you, let's say, an ordinary residential place might value in different areas. Some areas, let's say Kitty, the value might come out for the property like 15, 20,000. The valuation of rating for rating purposes. So that multiplied by 44%, the person might pay like 12 or 15,000. So different persons pay different things. Some person may have a value.
Let me get back to this because I'm still lost. Let's say I own a house in Lamaha Gardens, and that house value $50 million. How my taxes are being
the valuation is not based on a valuation for market value purposes. That you're speaking from a market valuation. A market valuation is a different valuation from a rating valuation.
Okay.
So the market valuation that you speak about it says the property is valued $50 million. In this case, this is a rating valuation rated for rating purposes, and that rating valuation it doesn't equate to what the property has. That it rates on 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, 4-story, that kind of thing. So and then it decides if it's commercial, if it's residential, if you have a part that is commercial, part of residential. So they value it based on those numbers, and they give you a number, and that number is multiplied by 44%. This gives you, some people pay the range of numbers people pay is between as minimum as low as $5,000 there's a maximum of a few $1 million based on where if you're commercially placed, and that's not per month, that's per year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Georgetown, as you know, and I was there driving, has a lot of potholes. Every year, there are potholes in the city. You might fix 10 today in one street, 20 resurrect itself in another street, and so forth. How do you intend? I mean, Georgetown is the capital city. We have to showcase Guyana because of Georgetown. It's the capital city. Some people say it's supposed to be the garden city, but at one time it was called the garbage city. But at present, it's relatively clean now.
Yeah.
But how do you intend to address those potholes?
Well, what we've been doing is, from a council perspective, we haven't been doing roads ourselves. So we lean on central government to do that. So we usually identify the key areas based on our constituency councillors, and we submit that report. Yeah, we submit that report to central government for the Ministry of Public Works to treat with those. Prior, it used to be Ministry of Public Infrastructure that assists in these different things. Now, this is not something that I came and met it, I think for over 20 something years or thereabout. We haven't been doing roads as a civil engineer from the civil engineers department or a city works perspective. It's something that I have decided that I will revisit to treat with it, because what I find happen a lot of times, and I think you might, in the main streets and the main thoroughfares that government will surely take care of, the law provides for us to treat with those roads and treat with those streets and fix those potholes. Yes, we identify and ask them to treat with it, but from a particular standpoint, government sometimes don't go in certain areas and do things, and those areas might be some areas that are a stronghold for one side over the other, and we might have gotten significant support from those persons, but then we're not doing any road, we're waiting on the government to do. So I think that is something that we surely be looking at, we'll surely be addressing, and what we will put in place, even though we don't want to put a new department or add additional staff towards that particular department, we will identify the roads, quantify them, figure it out, and then we will outsource it a particular contractor to treat it. So I think it's something that we've looked at. I think we even start looking at this even in the last council. So it's just a matter now for us to add some more monies towards it and move to the point of execution and implementation of it.
Now, as you know, there are lots of street signs in the city, but there are a lot of streets that don't have no street signs whatsoever. So people, tourists or whatever it is, do have to guess their way as to if this is a street or that is a street. Plus, your mayor, let me say this to you. One-way street signs, it's very, very poorly in Georgetown. I was driving there sometime early this year, and I was going down a one-way, did not even realize it. Now, police officer came behind me, and he pulled me over, I stopped. He said, "This is a one-way." I said, "Officer, I haven't seen no one-way sign." He said, "Well, I said, no, I'm not from here, so I can't know it." So he said, "Pull over." So I drove away. Because when I turned into the street, if there's a one, you should say no entry on the road. That's not to be, or put a sign up, no entry. There is nothing. When are you going to get these things fixed? As I'm saying to you, Georgetown is supposed to showcase Georgetown as our capital city. And if Georgetown is not in a good state, how can we say Guyana will be in a good state?
I agree with you, and it's something that I will definitely address. I am looking at some low-hanging areas that I've been considering, and considering it from a point of view where I'm getting the corporate Guyana involved. As a corporate man
I
myself,
was going to tell you that. Can you get the private companies to help the
yeah.
city
Other
install
thing,
proper things so that the city can be
so
glorious?
now that you've added this variable to the equation, it's something that I will surely consider as one of the other low-hanging things that I would like to treat with, because one of those things, because I have a lot of friends who tell me different things and suggest different stuff and want to participate in this process. So they have indicated to me, and I think I've just got the estimates um, for these issues. Let's say there's a lot of bridges in the city where you find that some rail knock off another concrete part gone somewhere, and that kind of things. I had a guy, one of the persons who didn't wish to support along with adding other businesses did. Where businesses can adopt these various bridges, or not really the bridges, they adopt the redevelopment of it. So the outside of the no entry issue, there's these bridges that have no, for some reason there's no side, is an iron side or is a concrete side. So I got the information on that to treat with those issues, and I will be addressing in addition to the no entry, I will add the bridges to this, so that those persons who will come forth from the corporate side to treat with those issues, I will ask them to also support this no entry initiative.
We're talking about this. We know the Dutch built the city, but when you cross some bridges, those what they have in both sides in white, very nice design. What you call those? I don't even know.
The grill work or the fretwork?
Yes. Some are damaged, and the city leaves them the same way. Why do the Dutch give us something? Why can't we enhance that?
I agree with you, but that's what I'm saying. In addition to we had to force again. Sometimes you don't realize these things. You see these things, you pass wherever But I'm in the position where I hold the highest office in the city, so I have to be able to take that particular lead and to address those particular things, and not only address it where I want to use the resources of the council, but if I have persons, good spirited persons who wish to make a contribution, I'll get those persons involved. And I hear you, because the person, some one of those persons are people involved in that kind of fabrication that has volunteered their time to be able to help quantify these things. So I'm having quantities that speak to the fretwork and the steel work that was left there by the Dutch and the others. I'm also having the other concrete things, so I can have the right particular form, so they can have the right kind of design, and also those other steel work. So the person who volunteered that information is somebody who is in the business of that kind of thing, and he has volunteered his time to treat with that. It's for me now to be able to match the corporate people to those particular bridges to address those issues. But I will also add the no entry that you spoke about.
Now, I'm going to be recalcitrant to you. If I were a business person on Regent Street, I would not want to pay taxes, because all those vendors are selling in front of me on the pavement. My street inside the store can already be seen from outside. What are you going to do with those vendors? The merchants have complained, but no one has done anything.
We've been having this kind of complaint, and I strongly believe that to be able to satisfy and to bring a win-win situation to this, it will need a meeting of the minds. It will need for a cultural change. Many of those businesses who have those things blocking their entrance, some of them also have their own people out there. So what they do is they have people out there vending for them and selling stuff from in their store. So that is one aspect. But there's other aspect where people really want their entrances clear. And I think the court has been granting mandamuses to those persons to cause the council to have them move. So we're particularly treating with that. But my version of vending, I have always looked at it. I've seen it from the perspective of where it happens to be. But for us to be able to treat with it, we got to find alternative places to be able to deal with it. I just don't want to just move them, or for us to be able to be high-handed in our approach to treating with it. I've been looking at alternative areas, and the council also will be looking to address and to spend some money on those alternative areas to not only do a one story, but do a 2 or 3 story. Because my view, like I said, I've been involved in business for many years, and as a real estate person, and as that person, I promoted ownership. I want a person to own something. I want them to feel the value of ownership. I want them to understand that value, and not to leave a spot on the road or some place that said they used to sell to the kids, because the kids can't own that. I want to be able to cause a situation where they could at least own a stall, own some place that they call theirs, so they don't leave a bill when they passes on. They leave a will, so they could even will that thing into the system to allow them to be able to have some kind of succession in what they do, because these same vending, while we look at it, would have sent a lot of these kids to school and educate them, and also mind these people's families. So I'm looking at ways. I went up to the top of the market the other day with the British High Commissioner, and when I went up there, I think I would have been able to look over the city in itself, and I was like, wow, this is, when you look at it, it looked, not the most pleasant of sights. So I am saying that as mayor, if I don't believe, if I can't help to fix it or regularize it and to bring about that cultural shift and change in the education that the people need, that's necessary to get that change, I would have failed the people. So I will own up to this and do my best to be able to treat with such matters.
In reality, the vendors, they want to work on a decent living, a day's pay and everything else, but they're crowding the merchants. Now, there are several condemned buildings in Georgetown. They're all and dilapidated. Now, I know you will tell me, like the other mayor said, they can't haul those buildings down. But if they're being condemned by the city, why the city can't take charge and get rid of them, or force the owners to get rid of them?
I don't believe that we can't. It's the will to do it, and the will to get that done. I think under the previous mayor in Chase Green, I think and I think King as the then town clerk, we moved to treat with those issues. We moved to clear up a lot of those properties and add the developmental costs or the clearing costs onto the taxes of the person. But while we tried that method and to put that in place, what that really did is really increase the cost of persons that didn't pay in anyhow. So you increase it, you put in place, you clean it up, you do what you have to do, and those portions still in place. So I hear you. What we will obviously have to do is obviously get to those portions, maybe create some other particular fines or other things to get them using the law to honor keeping those buildings in a better state. But it's something that we looked at, and we fleshed out ideas, and we come back, and then you get disagreements and agreements, and we never get to move it really and truly forward. But I will surely revisit it, Mr. Rose, and see what we could find that we could put in place that allows us to take the enforcement of these issues seriously, and to get these issues regularized.
You were a city councillor at the time when Patricia Chase Green wanted to bring parking meters to Georgetown. What were your views on that?
I was one of those who wasn't in total support of it, at least from a cost perspective, as well as how it was being introduced and foisted on the people at the time. I strongly believe that there's need for traffic management and the regularization of traffic in the city, and I do believe too that the parking meter itself should have been something that should have really and truly got going, but the cost at the time was a little onerous, as well as the manner in which the areas that they went. Looking at this particular parking meter was way too far into certain areas and all over the city, out from one way to the other. I believe that it should have been introduced maybe in the commercial district in a pilot, and then moved gradually to other areas. But the manner in which it went about and the way in which they wanted to introduce it was not one that I question it. I have minutes to show that where I stood on it. And it didn't, again, it turned out to not, turned out to not be successful. And I think we had a force majeure based on the action that were eventually taken and so on and so forth. And I believe the matter now at some higher court for arbitration and some kind of settlement.
There. Now, what I don't understand from some of our leaders in Guyana is that they very quickly want to run and copy things in other countries. For example, it was Clement Roy who brought in yellow taxis. I have a taxi. I got to paint it in yellow. I don't want to sell that car. I think anybody's going to buy it from me. And I want to tell, and I told him there and then, I said, it's only New York City got yellow taxis. Go to Texas, Houston, they don't have yellow taxis. Go to Miami, Florida, they don't have yellow taxis there. Go to California, they don't have yellow taxis. Why are you imposing yellow taxis on the people? We copy things that, I don't know, like they're not original in their decision or nothing of the sort. And that's something I see that is a fault mark in Guyana among many, many of our leaders. They're quick to say what the United States is doing. This, don't take the United States as an example, because for every bad thing the United States does, it will do a million good things. Mm-hmm. So the question remains where you do not copy. Be original. This is Guyana. Mm-hmm. Be original. Come up with creative ideas on your own. Yellow taxis in Georgetown. Utter nonsense. Anyway, it's a good thing that problem is gone. Now, my next question to you is this. The street lights in Georgetown, who pays for them?
What I could say to you, the reason why they are there and GPL and us have some kind of an arrangement, like a quid pro quo arrangement, based on these poles being placed on our parapets. So for the use of our parapets, they have these poles. Likewise, GT&T, likewise, I think E-Networks and so on. So it's something that we've only recently addressed as to how we will see how we could have some additional benefits out of the E-Networks and maybe GT&T and others, because we don't get no free meal from these. But in relation to GPL, the lights are there, and they honored those. It's placed by them, but we don't have to pay them, and they don't have to pay us because of this use of the property.
Okay. Now, government buildings, do they pay taxes? Ministries, police departments, and so forth, do they pay taxes?
They're supposed to pay. But
no, the question is, do they pay?
No, they are delinquent and outstanding on their payments to us.
Why did you take them to court?
Well, that's something that we are pondering on, because there's central government, there's local government, and we're hoping that we could find a workable solution to treat with it. But we are at that point where I think one of the things we even suggested, like I said earlier, that They have outstanding monies for us, but we have outstanding money for GRA. GRA falls as an agency under the government, and we said that, listen, hey, cut a deal, but you write the check directly to GRA, and then we'll clear your accounts. And that is something that we're still in discussions on. But while we are in discussions on that, I said we have to be looking at some other ways and means and how we could treat with issues. But at the end of the day, the government still have significant outstanding indebtedness to us. I think it's somewhere around $1.9 billion. And if we could get those monies in, but a lot of it, again, is interest accrued, that would have accrued over time. There are a number of agencies that honor their thing, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of this, Ministry of that, but there's some other agencies that haven't been paying. I think the police, they pay as well, so I wouldn't want to call their name because I think they honor their obligation to us. But there are many other agencies that don't. We even had a situation where NISIL, who's the National Investment Company or Limited of cooperation that is under the state for the public assets, they've reached out to us to settle their bills, and also for us to honor the settling of the interest and so on. So they did that in the previous council, and I think they still have some outstanding that ought to be also settled. And we've been working with different agencies to treat with these issues and to bring closure. But there's still some outstanding there that ought to be settled, and for us to get the kind of resources necessary. So as long as we could do that, I'm sure we'll be better off.
This is a very awkward question for me to ask, but I will ask it. Do schools pay taxes? I shouldn't ask it. I think schools should not be. I think schools should not.
No. The schools don't pay taxes. What private schools?
Okay, private schools. Okay.
Private school pay, but private schools we rate them under an institutional rate, which is a very small rate, which makes it as easy as possible on them to be able to honor their obligations.
Well, I'm happy that schools don't pay taxes. Very, very happy about that, because schools not supposed to pay taxes, providing education for the next generation. So they should be allowed to do it freely, of course. Now, Durban Park. Who owns Durban Park? Is the city or the national government?
Before, in the previous administration, we used to handle it or manage it or administer the dealing of it, and then at the latter part of the previous administration, they took over the responsibility, and it was passed over to the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. In that case, it was Ministry of Education at the time. So it's with the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, and they have responsibility for the Durban Park.
For Durban Park. The seawalls, who have responsibility?
Central government under the Ministry of Public Works for sea defense.
Wow. So the city is not responsible for the seawalls. The city is not responsible for Durban Park. What lands is the city responsible for?
Now, we have the Merriman Mall is ours.
Okay.
As a stretch of property.
Botanical Gardens.
The Botanical Gardens falls under the central government. The Promenade Gardens falls under the Mayor City Council. Shorten. Okay, let me get this right with you. The Wolford Avenue, we have the Nomprel. We have Nomprel Park. We have the tennis thing. All of those things fall under the Mayor City Council. But then they hand it to different persons. Even the lands that you have out at where all those playgrounds happen to be, and where the Marian Academy and all those places, those are lands that belong to the Mayor City Council, but they have peppercorn contracts given to schools, like you said, schools and other social organizations. NIS ground for running and sports and so on. So, but those grounds are vested in the name of the Mayor City Council. So we have a lot of assets of our own. It's just that many of those assets would have been leased long donkey years ago, long before I even dream of even getting involved in city council.
See, I didn't ask you if the GDF pay taxes because I know they're not supposed to pay taxes. But my next question to you is this. There are several consulates and embassies in Guyana. Do they pay taxes?
That's a good question. I never thought of the. I believe the embassies are exempt from what I remember. They have a diplomatic exemption from paying on taxes. That's from knowledge that I know. I don't know. I've never really thought about it in that fashion, but from what the knowledge I know, they are exempted under the diplomatic immunity status.
And so are churches.
Yes, churches are. But the thing about churches, what we do, the law provided under, I can't remember which part of the section of the law that speak of that exemption. I think it's I don't remember the particular number. I'll try to check it up just now. But the law provides for them to not pay, and it states specifically what we've been doing with some of these churches and these other religious organizations is that from time to time they change the use. So what we ask them to do is keep on writing us every year to ask to seek that exemption, because your use might change for something. You might sell the place out and whatever to somebody else, or you might change the use from a church or business. So we ask them to keep on updating us on what they are doing with the particular property.
The city runs both the Stabroek and Border markets and La Penitence market too, am I right?
Yes, Stabroek, Border, La Penitence, Kitty, Albistown, which is there's a East La Penitence market, and there's an Albistown market, and then there's Stabroek, and then there's Border, and there's also Kitty. So we have those are markets that are under our control.
And the vendors, they pay the taxes.
All the vendors, but they don't.
Or pay the rent.
They pay the rent or the fees that they have to pay. We don't have a particular challenge with persons not honoring their obligation. What the particular challenge we have is that we need to do some additional improvement and put certain things in place, and rather than, because at the end of the day, we own these things, and we are an administration through the council are landlords of these things. But what happened is that the quality of or the standard of where the market is at, we need to be able to spend some more money on these issues so that persons have a better service from us, and that when they have a better service and we improve the state and condition of the place in whatever way, we'll be able to look at how we could review the rates that they pay, because lots of those rates are rates that I came and met, that other people came and would have dealt with. So it's something that we obviously have to address and to treat with. But I'm not a believer in increasing rates. I'm a believer in improving the service and the condition of the place before I even ask about that increase in rates.
Okay. Now, St. George's Cathedral, the City Hall, Stabroek Market, they're all heritage buildings. But why don't you add a second floor at Border Market? Because it's crowded and vendors need more space.
Well, you mean not at Border Market where you have the green section?
Not on top of the market of itself.
I was there the other day looking at it, and I would have seen where persons, not only at Stabroek, not at Stabroek.
No, not Stabroek. I would say that.
I know at both Stabroek and Border, where you could add those additional levels. Again, I've looked at it. There's a consultant who also came in and had those kind of talks. But we're looking at it from a perspective where, like you said, how we could increase the use of it. But before I even go there, I was more thinking of where, the old green section, where you as a young boy, you probably used to walk through the green section and buy your mango and your orange and your banana and so on. This is the piece between North Road and Rob
Right,
Street.
right.
Now that place is in a bad condition.
Very, very bad
And
condition.
and I've seen it. A lot of emphasis. We spoke with central government about a plan to partner and to treat with it, but we didn't get the kind of bite and results. So but we've also had the design and so done. So we're looking at it from a standpoint of treating with it to improve and to raise it, so to speak. You talk about doing something in the border market and the other side, but if we could make that place a double or a triple decker, and in doing that, you allow persons from off the street, because if we can really move persons, or you're really finding an alternative place, you're finding something substantial for them to be able to move. But when you also do that, we don't want a new set of people go in and pick up these other places on the road, because we will make it a compulsory that you will not be able to go back on the road. So we'll be able to fix those things. So, but that is one of the areas where we will be looking at to consider the moving of persons, and to really raise the profile of that particular. And we could also think about the point that you already just made, that if we could also look at some other double deckers inside of the border market itself. But
Right.
that's where
because
there
very
is
indeed.
it's something we could do, and to treat with issues, and not have the kind of lawlessness that we have currently existing in our street.
Exactly. Because there are more vendors outside of border market than inside. Anyway, let me get to some administrative questions now. As you know, there's a mayor's association. The last president was Wanika Rendell from Linden. Who is the current president?
Well, it's a Ghana Association of Municipalities, which is a body that involves all the mayors and councillors, and
Right.
since we have changed or had these elections, we haven't had a chance to re-elect a new mayor, or the elections hasn't been called to treat with that. It's something that we obviously have to look at and to treat with, and to have those elections so that we could have a new mayor, not a mayor, what do we call president
Right.
of the Ghana Association of Municipalities. So it's something that we will look at, but it's something that we ought to discuss. I believe I'll have to speak to Mr. Sharma Solomon, or Mayor Solomon, and McIntosh on, and so that we could start looking at having those elections, and to take it from there.
Now, as you know, mayors are now being paid full time, but they have to work full time. They receive a stipend. Do you think mayors should be paid full time?
Oh, definitely, man. The kind of work that I have to do, the kind of time I have to spend, I don't even get enough time to do the other things that I would like to do outside of the council. I believe the time has come for mayors to be properly remunerated, because the job is a heavy job, it's heavy lifting. I start the day having plans of things that I would like to do based on what I thought about the day before, and the other days before, and the weeks before. But every single day, something else come and overtake that particular set of things that I have to do, and I still leaving the things that I have should have been done addressed. And it's not only pay. I believe that outside of the a few staff that I have assigned to me, I believe that the mayors in my particular case, because of where I run the capital city, should have more particular persons added to my portfolio, so that I can be able to treat.
So you need more specialists, people with expertise.
Yeah.
Now, you're the mayor of the largest city in Guyana, followed by Mr. Sharma Solomon, Linden, and Mr. McIntosh in Amsterdam. Those are Guyana's 3 largest cities. Have you guys been collaborating?
Oh yes, we've been in touch. We have a WhatsApp connection, that we share information and share discussion and address. We didn't get a chance to address a number of issues, but we share, bounce ideas off of each other, and we communicate via WhatsApp. And from time to time, we meet and have some caucuses. But that's how we communicate with each other.
City Hall is under construction. When do you think it's going to be finished?
By next year, May. According to the contractor, when I did a walkabout there a few weeks ago, he suggested that because of the nature of the variations that they had, when the kind of job that, when you treat with that kind of job, when you go underneath or you check on this thing, you go underneath a particular piece of board or something, and you find that it need more work than you actually was quantified for or envisaged. So they have some particular challenges treating with those issues, and they've had some various variations and an extension of contract. So by May of next year, they suggest that they'll be ready. I would give them maybe June, so that we can have the official opening of that building and the use of it for meetings, and also we'll be considering what other options we'll be using it for. Maybe part of a historic museum or a heritage place that you could visit, and so on and so forth. So we'll be looking at all the options when that building is officially handed back to us.
Now, that's good. What is your relationship with the government? Are you cooperating with them, or are they cooperating with you?
Well, the relationship with me and government has always been a cordial one. I, as a public official, see myself as one that is bipartisan in my approach, one that is willing to seek a win-win situation, one that I'm willing to collaborate. As we all know, politics is about cooperation, collaboration, and consensus. So I try my best to be able to find different ways in which I could find solutions, so that I could find the kind of workable solutions necessary. But they, for some reason, from time to time, they disregard those kind of things and show some disrespect. As I said recently, where the minister tried to impose himself on the council, or try his best to inveigle himself where he doesn't have the authority. So when the situations like that happen, I have to step up or step out of my particular not my shell, but step out of that zone and let them know what I stand for. I've done this before as a youngster in business. I've had relationship with major people where I was going into major transactions with, and the moment they show any kind of disrespect, even though I was a youth at the time, I draw the line early and let them know, hey, you don't go there with me. So in this particular case, I set the tone. Listen, we can talk, we can work, we can have cordial discussions, we could work for the overall benefit of this city, but I'm not going to allow any disrespect from you in treating with matters of this council.
How often have you spoken to the president since taking office?
At least 2 times, and I also would, in instances where I would send a message. But we have spoken at least twice. Spoken to him at functions. He pick up the phone and call him, or he would call. That kind of, we have had that kind of discourse. But
so you all have a very good rapport.
I'm willing. Like I said, I'm flexible. I'm willing to work, but I'm going to work for the best interest of the people of the city. And when I saw that disrespect from the minister, who tried to inveigle himself into something that he has no authority on, I also sent a message to him and let him know my position. I would have assumed that he would have spoken to that minister or sent a message to him in whatever way, but I haven't seen the kind of reaction. So I obviously had to take actions in my own hands to be able to treat with those matters, to keep the council's perspective and keep the council's position intact without no persons or anybody stepping out of line and trying to bring the kind of disrepute to the council.
We're coming to the end of the program. President Ali One Guyana Initiative, how does the city fits into that, if it fits in at all?
Well, I'd say this over and over. They always speak about one Guyana and a one Guyana plan, and they have to walk the walk and talk the talk, or talk the talk and walk the walk, whichever one you want to look at it. And if you really and truly want to believe and want to have a bottom up approach, and one where you singing, we are singing from a particular hymn book which speaks of local democracy and working with the various councils and working with the city council and other NDCs, and you ought to show it in your conduct. Even up to today, they had an event at the convention center where the vice president was hosting an event to fit with grounds and community development. But I had no invitation for that. Other councillors in the city did not have any invitation. But you hosting something that talk about development and talk about local democracy and fitting the community grounds and other local development, but they see it fit to have the mayor and other councils invited to treat with such matters. That in itself shows your hands, shows your signs, and clearly is taking a position that you really and truly don't want to work with the council. So I'm saying that I'm willing to work, but if they're not willing to work, we can have a serious issue, and I'm not gonna treat with them lightly on any matters, treating or on touching on with the council.
On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, how would you rate the government on cooperation with the city or collaboration with the city?
They're in the bottom 5. So there must be a 3.
Okay, so this means that the cooperation is very, very poor.
Very poor, yes.
Now, what would you do to improve that? What angle, what measures would you take to improve that?
My thing is clear. I am open. I'm consultative. I am one that we can have the kind of discussions that will allow for us to have workable solutions. And there's a person in me who's willing to fit with that. So, but if you want to have this contentious approach and this high-handed approach and this approach where is mighty than anything else, then we're gonna have a significant problem, because it's might is right and might is not right. And that kind of situation will truly bring some tremendous challenges to the side. But I've always been open. I've always been one to seek a solution. I'm always one to seek dialogue. I'm always one to ensure that the dialogue win over contentiousness. So I'm here waiting, and I'm gonna hold my breath though, but I'm here waiting.
Okay, we have come to the end of the program there, Mentor. Thank you for coming here. Your closing remarks, do you have any?
Based on what I've said and so on, there's a number of things that we've been collaborating with. I think one of the key aspect is reaching out to the diplomatic community. I've reached out to them. That's one of the areas I've touched on. I've had serious discussions with them, not only from a standpoint of understanding the politics of my relation with the city and the diplomatic community, but I've moved to another level of figuring out how we can work. What city-to-city relationship we could have. We've had that kind of discourse, and the U.S. Embassy, the Canadian Embassy, the British High Commission, the Chinese Embassy that I've met with, they're very supportive and they're very open to creating new avenues for us, for the council to be able to benefit. I'm happy with the discussions I've had thus far with them, and a lot of things will bear fruit. Even one of those things that is high on the agenda outside of the Starbucks market, where we'll get significant support from a heritage perspective, but the British High Commission wants for us to look at the cemetery from a heritage standpoint as well. We'll be able to tap different Commonwealth heritage funds to be able to treat with a number of issues. So I've had significant talks with those various embassies, and they're seriously committed to working with the council, working with the administration of the council, and working to find the kind of common ground for the success that we need as a council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for that. And one of my comments is that I would like to see ExxonMobil and the oil companies do a lot of community work, help the communities with local projects and so forth in the various communities across the country. That's something they should embark upon, like what Booker's did years ago. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, but I know we missed that, but that is something that I've had a conversation with the ExxonMobil boss on the matter. It's just that we haven't officially reached us yet, but I strongly believe that outside of ExxonMobil, there's other major companies in Guyana that is committed to working with us and committed to treating with a number of issues so that we could find that corporate social balance between the companies and the city of Georgetown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It was a pleasure having you, and thanks to all our listeners. Thanks again to Noor Singh for making this program available. Ryan Gobin and Devin Bissoon. Thank you guys very, very much, and good night to